I'm Roger Turnquist. Welcome to the Chicagoland Learning Leaders Conference, October 2010. We're going to talk a little bit today about mentoring. So, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you first to each introduce yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Chris Browning. I'm Vice President at Triple Creek Associates.
My name is Jim Ebert, Leadership Development Manager, Miller Coors out of Milwaukee.
Okay, so with mentoring, sometimes the terminology can get a little tricky, so let's just make sure we're all on the same page. So if we're talking about mentoring, how do you define mentoring currently, Chris?
Sure. I think at the core level, we define mentoring as connecting people to people for the sake of learning and knowledge transfer. So it's all around the contextualized relationships and engagements that people have to learn and transfer knowledge between one another. And the reason we use that definition is that it provides a broader understanding of what's possible compared to what I might call classical or traditional mentoring, which is just limited to one-to-one long-term engagements.
It sounds to me like you're saying it's connection with a very big purpose.
Absolutely, with a lot of potential.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Now that we're on the same page with what mentoring is, let's talk a little bit about, we know that mentoring is evolving and it's becoming bigger and different. What direction is it headed?
Sure. Well, as I just mentioned a moment ago, classic mentoring is, again, typically defined by connecting one person who's more senior with somebody who's more junior, taking that person under their wing and helping advocate for them in their career. And what I say to that is yes and it's so much more. And so we've seen over the last several years that people are really evolving, and there's an emerging practice of mentoring that goes beyond that traditional one-to-one. It includes settings of multiple people coming together, maybe a few advisors, many learners concurrently, in something that might be more of a group-type setting. Okay. We also see something that we call situational mentoring, which focuses on connecting one or multiple learners and advisors in just-in-time types of engagements, because in today's knowledge ecologies, people need to learn things quicker than they used to. And so because of that, it's broken down the barriers as to who can be a learner and advisor. And you probably just noticed that I've used the term learner and advisor multiple times instead of mentor and mentee. When you ask a senior executive to be a mentor, they say sure. When you ask somebody who's a couple years out of undergrad to be a mentor, well, wait a second, I don't have enough experience to do that. But when you ask them to advise in areas of expertise, they're more willing. And on the flip side, somebody is willing to be a lifelong learner, but after a certain amount of experience being a mentee or a protege, it's not as palatable to them.
Yeah, we all need help from time to time, no matter how much experience, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting. So Jim, at Miller Coors, what are the changes that you've seen going on now?
Mentoring certainly has evolved at Miller Coors as well, and Chris, as you stated, some of the traditional forms of mentoring, we have 3 different types of programs now at Miller Coors. The first is really the formal high potential program where they're paired one-to-one with a senior leader in the organization. So we have that program. We now have a one-to-one mentoring program. We're using the Triple Creek software to help lead and develop with that one-to-one program. Just this past week in Chicago, we kicked off our group mentoring program, where we have 45 people now in 3 different groups with a common theme to be able to help with mentoring for their particular situation.
So, Chris, you talked about it, but maybe Jim, you've got some insight about mentoring now really as a learning tool, as a part of the learning and development process. Is there some things underway now that are making that connection stronger?
It absolutely is. The learning is changing at such a rapid pace that people have to identify what they want to understand, what they want to learn, and then go out and seek out within the organization. Mentoring, when they can be matched with the person who has that skill or knowledge, and be able to put those two together to be able to exchange that information quickly, is so important for us.
So let's see, if I needed to learn something, in the old days I could wait and sign up for a training class that occurs in 6 months. In the new way, I'm going to reach out to somebody and hopefully with a connection, be group or individual, I can get what I need as I need it just in time and move on.
Absolutely.
And I think a quick comment on that a shift that we're seeing is that traditionally, learning and development was created for the individual by the organization.
Okay.
What we're trying to shift to is allowing processes and enabling mechanisms for the individual to create the learning opportunities by the employee. So instead of it being created for the employee, it's being created by the employee. And while that might seem like a subtle change, it's very important in that, to what you mentioned a moment ago, I can't wait for such and such class to show up.
Right.
I need to know today because I need to start executing today.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much for sharing some time with us. Thanks.
You're welcome.